Losing a tennis match is one thing. Feeling ashamed about losing is something else entirely. And for many players, especially recreational athletes, club players, and even ambitious beginners, the fear of shame is far heavier than the fear of a bad forehand or a double fault. This episode is not about judgment. There is no right or wrong way to feel. It is simply about understanding what happens inside us when tennis results begin to feel like a reflection of our worth. If you've ever walked onto the court with the pressure already sitting on your chest, if you've ever looked at the scoreboard and felt that slow rising heat in your face, if you've ever worried more about what people will think of you than about playing the sport you love, then this episode is exactly for you. Because shame is not just an emotion. It's a story, and most of us don't even realize we're carrying that story with us every time we step out to compete. So let's talk honestly. Why does losing in tennis feel so personal? Why does it feel like a judgment on who we are? Why do we sometimes dread the match more than we enjoy the game? And why does shame, this quiet, heavy feeling, have so much power over how we play? For many players, tennis is intertwined with identity. The court becomes a stage where we don't just hit the ball. We perform our competence, our confidence, our pride. When someone beats us, it can feel like they've proven something about us that we secretly feared was true, that we're not good enough, not talented enough, not disciplined enough. And when those fears mix with the awareness that others are watching, our friends, our opponents, even strangers on nearby courts, the fear of shame becomes overwhelming. The question becomes, what will they think of me if I lose? And deeper underneath, that is a more vulnerable truth. What will I think of me if I lose? Shame thrives in comparison. Tennis is full of comparisons, rankings, scores, strokes, expectations. The way your opponent moves, the way you freeze, the way you used to play, the way you wish you would play. Most people don't talk about this, but losing often hurts less than the story we tell ourselves about what losing means. And these stories come from somewhere. Childhood, coaches, parents, friends, former matches where you were teased for losing, moments where you felt humiliated, comments that stuck with you long after they should have faded. Sometimes, the shame does not come from outside at all, only from ourselves. Tennis becomes a mirror. Losing makes us confront the parts of ourselves we haven't fully accepted, the parts that still seek approval, the parts that still need to be seen as capable, the parts that don't know how to separate performance from personal worth. But here's the truth that very few players ever hear. Feeling ashamed does not make you weak. It makes you human. Shame appears because you care. You care about the game, the effort, the impression you make, the hours you've put in. You care about the identity you've built around being a good player. You care about the expectations you've carried. And that's okay. There is no right or wrong way to care about something that matters to you. Still, shame can become heavy. It can stop you from taking risks. It can freeze your hand on the serve. It can make your legs tighten at break point. It can make you hide behind excuses. My strings were loose. The sun was in my eyes. I wasn't trying anyway. But deep down, what you really want is to play freely, courageously, and without the constant pressure of being judged. So how do we move from shame toward freedom? It begins with one quiet truth. Losing is not a verdict. Losing doesn't mean you're less valuable, less intelligent, less capable, or less worthy of respect. Losing means what it literally means. You lost a match, a result, a score. That's all. Everything else, every extra layer of interpretation, comes from stories you've collected over time. Some of those stories might not even be yours. They might belong to the people who raised you, coached you, pressured you, or expected something from you. When you feel ashamed after losing, your mind is not reacting to the present moment. It is reacting to memories of judgment, to the fear of disapproval, to the idea that being imperfect makes you unlovable or inferior. But none of that is true in reality. It only feels true because your emotional brain reacts faster than logic can comment. If you've ever walked off the court after a loss and immediately apologized to someone, your coach, your partner, your friends, ask yourself why. Why do so many players apologize for losing, as if they committed a moral failing? We don't apologize when we slip on a patch of ice. We don't apologize when the wind knocks over a cup. We apologize because somewhere inside, we think we let someone down. We feel shame. But imagine this. What if losing was simply part of the journey and not a measure of who you are? What if losing could teach you something without humiliating you? What if you could walk off the court with dignity, regardless of the score? Shame makes defeat feel like exposure, like someone has seen our weakness. But true maturity in tennis comes from recognizing that weakness is not something to hide. It is something to understand. Weakness is where growth begins. Weakness is where honesty happens. Weakness is where courage is formed. And ironically, the players who are least controlled by shame are often the ones who rise fastest, because they are not afraid to confront the uncomfortable parts of their game or themselves. When shame disappears, a new kind of tennis emerges, one that is lighter, more creative, more courageous. You stop playing safe. You stop protecting your ego. You start playing to win, not to avoid losing. There is a huge difference between the two. A fearful player tries not to embarrass themselves. A free player tries to express themselves. A fearful player freezes. A free player flows. And here is something you may not realize. Your opponent isn't thinking about your mistakes nearly as much as you think they are. Most players are too busy judging themselves to judge you. Everyone is trapped in their own internal stories, their own insecurities, their own fears. Shame can make you believe the entire world is watching your every move. In reality, most people notice for a moment and then go back to their own concerns. So the next time you feel that rising heat in your chest after a mistake, pause. Notice it. Understand it. Then remind yourself, this is just a match. This is just one point. This is just one day. This is not a definition of who I am. And slowly, match by match, that shame begins to dissolve. There is a quiet kind of power in a player who can lose gracefully without losing themselves. A player who can acknowledge disappointment without drowning in it. A player who can walk off the court with an honest heart and say, "Today I lost, but I am still me." That kind of self-acceptance is rare, and it is strong. Because when you no longer fear the shame of losing, you become dangerous in the best way possible. You play with courage. You go for your shots. You trust your instincts. You take risks. You enjoy the game again. The scoreboard becomes information, not judgment. The match becomes an experience, not a test. And losing becomes one of many chapters, not your identity. And maybe, just maybe, you'll discover something profound. That the people who matter don't love you for your wins, and they won't abandon you for your losses. Your worth is not created on the court. It's carried there. Now, as we close today's episode, here is my invitation for you. If this message touched you, reflect on your last match. Not just the score, but the emotions. Did you fear losing? Or did you fear the shame attached to losing? Did you play to win? Or did you play to avoid embarrassment? Be honest with yourself. Not to judge, but to understand. And if you feel brave, share your experience in the comments. Tell me how losing affects you. Tell me where shame shows up. Someone else might read your story and finally feel less alone. Because the truth is, you're not alone. Every player, even the ones who look confident, even the pros on TV, has felt that same burning shame. The difference is simply in how they respond to it. And you are capable of responding differently too. Here is your CTA. If this episode resonated with you, follow the channel, share it with another tennis player who might need this message, and leave a comment about your own experience with the shame of losing. Your story might help someone find the courage to play their next match with a lighter heart. And now, for a closing message to hold close. You are not your wins. You are not your losses. You are not the scoreboard, the statistics, or the expectations placed on your shoulders. You are a player, a learner, a human being in motion. Losing does not diminish your worth. Winning does not inflate it. Your value is constant. So step onto the court with an open heart, play with honesty, and let the game reveal who you are, not to judge you, but to free you.